Chapter 1, Mock the Fire. The chamber lights hummed with an artificial calm that didn't match the tension inside. Mira Kate stood motionless in the center of the tribunal circle, wrists free but spirit-bound. Her posture was straight, soldier-like, but her eyes gave her away, eyes that had seen too much and spoke of ash, flame, and loss. Unraised tiers surrounding her, members of the Galactic Tribunal observed in icy silence. Each represented a species once at war with Earth, and now sitting in fragile peace. At the apex sat Inquisitor Veltorin of the Dravari Dominion, tall, lean, and sharp-jawed like a blade sculpted from frost. He leaned forward, thin lips curling. "Sergeant Cade," he said slowly, "we summoned you not to parade Earth's flair for fiction, but to understand its decisions. Please, spare us the tales of sky gods and ancient beasts. We seek truth, not superstition." Mira didn't blink. "Then you're not ready for the truth." A ripple passed through the chamber, whispers, clicks, murmurs in half a dozen languages. The translator implants buzzed softly as meaning aligned across species. Veltorin's eyes narrowed. "Is this defiance, or the typical human penchant for drama?" "It's memory," Mira replied. "I was there. You weren't." She turned her head slightly. A projection flared to life beside her, showing the orbital map of Titan's southern hemisphere. Glowing markers indicated the positions of the Dravari fleets 2 days before their mysterious destruction. Dozens of cruisers. Gone. "You lost everything here," she said, voice cold. "In under 2 minutes. Your own logs show no energy discharge, no enemy signature." "So what did that?" A skeletal alien delegate from the Neverii stirred. "We attributed it to planetary instability, a tectonic surge." Mira smiled bitterly. "Tectonics don't track ships mid-flight." The tribunal fell quiet. Veltorin folded his long fingers together. "You want us to believe some ancient fire demon did this?" "You already do believe it," Mira said. "You're just afraid to say it out loud." Veltorin waved a hand. "Human military strategies often involve psychological tactics. Fabricated figures, rituals, strange chants before engagements. Why dress up war with theater?" She stepped forward. No one stopped her. "Because you underestimated what our stories really were," Mira said. "You laughed at our folklore, dragons, gods, monsters in the dark. You thought they were illusions. But you never stopped to ask why every culture had the same ones." A deep, crackling silence followed. She paused, measuring them. "Do you want to know what Operation Pyrefang really was?" she asked. A flicker of interest broke through even Veltorin's mask. "We intercepted fragments. A rogue human command near Saturn. Unofficial. Unregistered. Classified." Mira nodded. "Because some things on Earth weren't built by us. They were buried. Sealed. Not even our governments fully understood them." The lights dimmed. Her voice stayed steady. "We found Pyrefang under the Andes. You'd call it a war machine. We called it something older. Something watching." The projection shifted, grainy footage. A dark, mountain-choked sky. And a glow beneath the rock, pulsing like a heartbeat. This was a last resort. A whisper passed down through human empires. "When the stars fall, awaken the mountain." Someone scoffed. Mira snapped her gaze at the sound. It died instantly. "You think this is amusing," she said, quietly. "You weren't standing on the ground when the ash turned to fire." Veltorin raised a brow. "And what exactly did this? Mountain Dew?" Mira took a breath. It spoke Latin. The room tilted, if not physically, then emotionally. Even the hard science species among them hesitated. Languages don't evolve in isolation. Dead languages don't return from deep earth vaults with voice and purpose. "We activated something," she continued. "Something that responded to ancient protocol, ritual, not code. It didn't scan our genetics. It listened to rhythm, breath, and belief. And when it rose, it didn't ask who was friend or foe. It burned everything in the sky. Her voice didn't waver. I was the only one left alive from my unit. Burned half to bone. Evac took 12 minutes. Your fleet lasted less than 2. Veltorin stared at her, face unreadable. And you expect us to believe Earth houses sentient weapons based on its fairy tales? No, Mira said. I expect you to fear that it might. Another silence. This time, heavier. A delegate from the Vulcan horde rasped, why not use such things at the start of the war? Mira looked at him. Because Earth had a rule. We only awaken what we can put back to sleep. There was no laughter this time. She turned, slowly, back to the tribunal. You're not here to judge Earth's ethics. You're here because you don't know what else we buried. And then, deliberately, she leaned over and placed a small data crystal on the center console. Watch it. Or don't. But once you do, you'll understand why dragons exist in every one of our stories. Mira turned and walked toward the chamber exit. Sergeant Cade, Veltorin called, voice tense. She stopped at the threshold. Yes? If your race truly possesses such power, why did you stop? Mira looked back, one hand on the door. Because we didn't want to become the stories we tell to scare our children. Then she walked out, leaving the galaxy's finest in cold, shaken silence. Chapter 2, The Mountain Woke. The chopper blades screamed above the Andes, fighting altitude and wind like it knew what waited below. Mira sat in the cramped jump seat, helmet in her lap, eyes locked on the slate-gray mountains cutting into the clouds. Her squad was silent, seasoned soldiers reduced to shadows by the mission brief. No one had explained much. Just coordinates. Clearance levels that didn't exist on any Earth network. And the final line from Central Command, if we lose Titan, activate Pyrefang. No questions. No hesitation. Titan was gone. Sergeant Cole broke the silence. We digging up nukes or tombs? Probably both, Mira muttered. The descent was rough. High-altitude gusts battered the VTOL as it dropped toward a narrow ridge. From above, the location didn't look like much, just rock and snow. But the LZ was marked, precisely, in old pre-war coordinates. Long before satellites. As they landed, the squad filed out quickly. The cold bit through their exosuits. Air thin. Nerves thinner. Captain Hale, grizzled and usually unshakable, checked his HUD. Vault entrance is 50 meters west. Keep eyes sharp. They advanced along the ridge. The snow gave way to bare rock, unnaturally smooth. Then, a line. A groove so precise it couldn't be natural, an arch carved into the mountainside, like a forgotten door waiting to be remembered. Mira knelt and brushed ice from the inscription embedded in the stone. It wasn't in modern Latin. It was older. Ritualistic. Recognize this? Hale asked. She nodded. It's ecclesiastical. Church Latin. From before Vatican IV reforms. Can you read it? She stood. Enough to be afraid. With a synchronized command, they placed hands on the arch. The stone pulsed once, just once, and then melted inward with the sound of shifting bone. The mountain opened. Inside, there was no frost. The air was warm. Dry. Like stepping into the lungs of something breathing beneath the world. The corridor spiraled downward, illuminated by veins of glowing or embedded in the walls. It wasn't built. It was grown, shaped by intelligence that didn't use tools. As they descended, Myra's comm crackled. You hear that? Corporal Dre asked. What? Hale replied. Something, whispering. Mira froze. She heard it too, barely perceptible, like a voice just out of reach, speaking not with words, but memory. They reached the vault chamber, a cathedral-sized dome buried under kilometers of stone. In the center stood the construct. It was dormant, coiled, massive. Wings folded like burned parchment. Its body shimmered, neither fully metal nor organic. Jagged spines arced down its back. Its head rested atop a pedestal, crowned by a fractal symbol that shifted shape the longer you stared at it. Ignis Rex. Jesus Christ, Cole whispered. No, Mira said. Something older. There were no panels. No interfaces. Just a plinth, circular, waist-high, with 6 grooves. Mira felt her skin crawl. It wasn't designed for access. It was a lock. And someone had buried the key inside her culture. She stepped forward and began to speak. Not from memory. From instinct. Excita Draconem, Kaflamma Spirit. The vault pulsed. De Hostibus Oblivionum. The floor shook. The air thickened. The whispering stopped, replaced by a hum so low it rattled bone. Then, sound. A growl. Long and layered, rising from the chamber's depths like heat from magma. The construct's chest lit up, orange veins crawling outward from a glowing heartstone. Its wings twitched. Claws flexed. The pedestal disintegrated into ash. Captain Hale raised his rifle. Don't, Mira said. It sees everything. The creature, no, the entity, rose slowly, lifting its serpentine neck. Its eyes flared open, revealing pupils shaped like burning sigils. They didn't reflect light. They consumed it. Is it sentient? Someone asked. It's judgment, Mira replied. Without a word, Ignis Rex launched itself upward, tearing through the dome's apex like paper. The chamber collapsed in its wake, dust raining down like snow turned to ash. The team ran, scrambling for the surface, comms now blaring chaos. This is control. Massive energy surge detected from Andean coordinates. Object leaving atmosphere at hypersonic speed. They reached the ridge just in time to see the sky ignite. A fireball curved through the stratosphere like a comet on a mission. Mira stared upward, heart pounding. Its flight path? Hale asked through gritted teeth. Mira whispered the answer like a confession. Titan. 8 hours later, from the observation deck of the Europa relay station, Mira watched the last of the alien fleet die. Not with explosions. With erasure. The satellite feed captured only silence, a wave of heat and light passing through metal, leaving nothing behind. Hundreds of ships, reduced to drifting particles. Not even debris. Ignis Rex didn't fight. It purged. Back on Earth, Mira stood before a war council that looked more like a funeral procession. General Atherton, wounded, gray, tired, asked the only question that mattered. Is it coming back? Mira looked to the sky. I don't think it ever left. Chapter 3, The Folklore War. The tribunal chamber was no longer quiet. Since Myra's testimony ended, chaos simmered just beneath the surface. Delegates whispered in huddles, feeding data crystals into personal interfaces, eyes widening as classified files decrypted in real time. A dozen species with centuries of political control were now reading a story they had refused to believe, a story etched in Earth's myths and now burned into Titan's sky. Inquisitor Veltorin remained seated, unmoved on the outside, but the tap of his index finger against the bench told another story. He finally spoke. You've made your point, Sergeant Cade. You've used theater, fear, and myth to command our attention. But understand this, one incident doesn't define a species. One anomaly does not rewrite history. Mira stood calmly. No theatrics now. Her voice was level, her expression drained of anger. This wasn't about proving anything anymore. This was a warning. You think this is about one event, she said. It isn't. This is about what Earth is. What it's always been. And what your kind ignored. Veltorin scoffed. You're claiming Earth is home to more of these relics? No, Mira replied. I'm claiming you've already walked past them. Mocked them. Dug them up and called them art, superstition, cave drawings. But they were instructions. They were warnings to us. We were never the first to fight them. Just the first to forget why they were locked away. The Oscary delegate, voice synthesized and precise, spoke up. You want us to believe your folklore is a global security system? That dragons and gods are just dormant weapons waiting for a phrase? Not waiting for a phrase, Mira corrected. Waiting for permission. They were bound by stories, narratives designed to keep humans from poking too far. That's why myths always end in warnings. Don't climb that mountain. Don't speak the name. And you spoke it anyway, Veltorin said. Mira didn't blink. Because you brought war to our doorstep and laughed while doing it. Veltorin stood now, tall and deliberate. You turned a battlefield into a ritual ground. That was not strategy, it was desperation. And yet, you want us to sit here, trembling over fairy tales. She took a slow step forward. Then let me ask you something, Inquisitor. If you're so certain this is all fiction, why is your homeworld on lockdown? Why did your High Command order a planetary shield over Dravaris 3 hours after you saw that footage? Veltorin's face twitched, barely, but enough. Mira turned to the rest of the tribunal. You all have your legends too. Fire demons. Sea monsters. Sky serpents. Every species here shares at least one story that aligns with ours. You ever wonder why? The Borkash delegate, voice gruff and slow, rumbled, Are you suggesting Earth isn't the origin, but the prison? Mira didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence around her confirmed they'd already thought it. She pulled a new crystal from her uniform. We've begun decoding the other sites. The Andes were just one. There's one under the Sahara. Another in Siberia. And something, submerged near Antarctica. The holograms blinked to life. Old cartography. Ancient glyphs. Linguistic overlays. Seismic data. None of it theoretical. All of it real. Veltorin's voice lost some of its edge. If these constructs were so dangerous, why hasn't humanity been wiped out already? Mira looked straight at him. Because we were taught to fear them. To respect the fire. She let that sit. Then added, You weren't. That landed harder than anything else. The tribunal fell quiet again. The stillness this time wasn't political, it was primal. Instinctual. A quiet drawn from a place deeper than logic. Humanity isn't stronger because we're better at war, she said, softer now. We're stronger because we know when not to fight. Every culture on Earth taught restraint. Even our monsters were bound by rules. Cross the wrong threshold, speak the wrong words, and consequences came. And you believe that's still true? The Nevarii delegate asked, voice barely audible. I know it is, Mira said. Because we didn't lose control of Ignis Rex. We never had it. Veltorin approached her now, face unreadable. And what is your purpose here, then? A veiled threat? A message of fear? Why testify at all? Mira studied him. Then gave the most honest answer she had. Because one day, someone in this chamber will be arrogant enough to touch another vault. And I want them to hear my voice in their head when they do. Telling them to stop. Veltorin's gaze lingered on her a second longer. Then he turned away, retreating to his seat. No one else spoke. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of things left unspoken. Questions too dangerous to ask. Histories too ancient to verify. But the fear was real. The doubt had taken root. Mira walked to the exit. Her boots echoed as they had before. But now, no one stopped her. No one dared to. Just before the doors parted, she paused, turned once more. Oh, she said, almost as an afterthought, and if any of you still think Earth's stories are just bedtime tales, try landing uninvited. She smiled. Just enough to be remembered. We don't tell our myths to children to entertain them. We tell them so they remember the rules. Then she was gone. Chapter 4, The Last Warning. They didn't announce her arrival. They didn't need to. The second Mira Cade stepped onto the surface of Earth again, everything felt quieter. Not because of reverence, because of distance. The galaxy had begun pulling back, like fingers lifting from a trigger they now feared was wired to something ancient and awake. Back at the Geneva compound, what remained of Central Command, she was met with nods, not salutes. After what she'd testified, no one knew what protocol applied anymore. She passed corridors once filled with briefing screens, now flooded with silence and scanning drones. No military rush. Just the weight of containment. Earth wasn't arming anymore. Earth was watching. General Atherton met her on the overlook, eyes sunken, hands clasped behind his back. "You started something," he said without turning. "No," Mira replied, stepping beside him. "They started it when they broke orbit without asking permission." A long pause. The distant Alps were capped in snow, the same as always. But the world below had changed. "They believed we were children with sticks," Atherton said. "They weren't wrong," she replied. "But they didn't realize who carved the sticks." He glanced sideways. "Do they know yet, about the others?" Mira didn't answer. He sighed. "Good." Behind them, inside the compound, the lights flickered, low, red, then green. A signal. Data upload complete. Mira had spent the last week compiling everything: vault locations, glyphs, linguistic overlaps, anomaly patterns, into a black file labeled myths as defense protocols. It would never be published. It wasn't meant for generals. It was meant for survivors. Atherton leaned on the rail. The tribunal's response? Mira exhaled through her nose. Sanctions. Embargo talks. Quiet investigations. But they won't act. Because of fear? No, she said. Because they're still deciding if we're lying. He let out a humorless chuckle. They always need proof. Even when it's melting their fleets. Myra's gaze drifted skyward. They'll come again. One of them. Maybe a generation from now. Curious. Arrogant. Thinking time has buried our secrets. And when they do, then we stop being afraid of our stories. She handed Atherton a data crystal, encrypted, sealed with vocal and biometric locks. Emergency Protocol 7, she said. Only activated if another vault is breached. Especially the one near the Arctic plate. That one's different. Atherton looked at the crystal like it might burn through his fingers. What's down there? Not fire, Mira said softly. Something colder. Behind them, a junior officer burst onto the balcony. Young. Shaken. General, he paused when he saw Mira. You need to see this. They followed him to the command room. The screen showed an incoming transmission, unauthorized, encrypted with a relay pinging from the outer rim. Not Galactic standard. Not a language the system could translate. But Mira recognized the pattern. It pulsed in a rhythm she'd heard before. Once. In a vault beneath a mountain. What is it? Atherton asked. She tilted her head, heart already racing. It's a request. For what? She stared at the pulse, and for a moment, her voice caught in her throat. Permission. The room froze. Atherton stepped closer. You're saying, something out there's asking to come back? No, she said, breath unsteady. It's not asking us. The transmission wasn't directed at Earth. It was coming from Earth. A signal. A beacon. She scanned the coordinates. Not Andes. Not Antarctica. Somewhere new. Unlisted. A place no vault had ever been recorded. Atherton saw the screen darken. Could it be one of ours? She shook her head. It's older than the relay system. Older than us. It's been waiting for the war to end. And now? Now it thinks we lost. She turned, pacing to the tactical map. Her mind was already racing through old myths, unrecorded legends, unsolved carvings. Not every tale had been sealed. Some had simply slept. Prep a team, she said. Atherton raised an eyebrow. You're going after it? Mira gave a grim smile. No. I'm going to ask it a question. He paused. What kind of question? She glanced back, eyes sharp. Why now? Outside, the snow had begun to fall. Inside, the myths were no longer silent. Later that night, as Mira walked alone through the compound's garden, the only part untouched by war, she stopped at the statue of Prometheus. The old bronze figure held a torch, eternally alight, gaze cast down in warning. She sat at the base, pulled her gloves off, and traced a crack near its base. Someone had carved something there. Sloppy. Rushed. But human. It read, "We were warned. We forgot." She closed her eyes. Not all wars are fought with armies. Some are fought with memory. And others, with restraint. The stars above glittered like the eyes of old things watching from beyond. She didn't fear them. She feared the day someone else would stop fearing them too.